Hi, I'm 𝗜𝗡𝗪𝗓, and I'm here again with Kevin Middleton. Kevin, how are we doing today?
Good to see you again. Thanks for having me back.
No problem at all. So, since we last spoke, it was about this time last year. How have things been in terms of coaching with restrictions being lowered, of course?
It's been a pretty crazy year, I'm not going to lie. As soon as we came out of the restrictions, participation numbers went through the roof. This is with the Arbroath Football Club Community Trust. Eventually, the trust got to 600 participants a week, participating multiple times a week as well in many cases. So things exploded after the restrictions lifted, and football in the town in general in Arbroath is kind of exploded as well. Participation levels are at a high. I've not got the data, but I would expect they're at a high compared to 5, 10 years ago. People have actually said that to me, so it's all going really well at the moment in the town.
Fantastic. That's really good to hear. And as you had to also kind of, hire more people to help you out just in terms of like controlling the numbers and things like that since it spiked.
I think that's been one of the success stories in Arbroath. The number of coaches, paid coaches, so professional coaches that are now in different posts. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it must be into the 20s and 30s now. It's been great. And there's been other teams in the town, other clubs in the town who have managed to increase their volunteer numbers to cope with the participation highs. So it's going really well. And that can only be a good thing. The more coaches and volunteers we have helping the football players of the town, the more football can be provided for those football players. So it's all good.
Of course, fantastic. And as the popularity of the one-on-ones, I take it, maintained its attention.
I think when we were in restrictions and lockdowns and things like that, one-to-ones were really popular because they were one of the only ways to get around the restrictions. Since we came out of the restrictions and lockdowns, they decreased, but participation in group classes increased. There are some people in the town still that do one-to-ones. I've done a couple in recent weeks, but I would say overall they probably decreased just because there's more opportunity to play with your friends, right? And everyone who's a kid at least wants to go and play
Yeah.
with their friends on a football field rather than just go have a one-to-one with a coach. That's my experience. Anyway, so participation's gone up, but probably the one-to-one participation's gone down.
Yeah. I'd imagine so as well, because everyone just wants to get back at it, kind of go back to normal in that kind of sense. So, as well as that, has being able to like watch live football again impacted your sessions, just in terms of more kids now being more engaged in the sport, kind of, and the livelihood?
So you probably know the success that the football club's going on at the moment. Arbroath Football Club, top of the championship, being the only part-time team in the championship, and record season ticket numbers and things like that. So as the teams kind of progress through the leagues, and they've kept a cohort of football players there for many seasons now. I'm thinking, Ricky Little, Tam O'Brien, David Gold. So there's a real affinity with the community from the football club. So as that's happened, that's come along in line with the increase in participation numbers. So getting back into Gayfield, I mean, I was there on Sunday. There's 4,000 fans there, and then the
Wow.
Friday before that, there was over 2,000 at the Kilmarnock game, and you're kind of in the stadium, and you can just hear all the kids shouting on their heroes on the pitch. I think the club's got 200-300 season ticket holders who are under 12.
Superb.
Yeah, which is fantastic, and it's a great percentage of season ticket holders that are kids, and it's just fantastic to see. So there's a real high in participation, and there's a real high in spectating as well, going along to the games on a Saturday and watching the team. And again, because the players have been there for a while, some of the players have been there for a while. There's a real affinity with them, and they come and speak to the kids and things like that. Just as an aside, you maybe seen 𝗔𝗿𝗪𝗂𝗵𝘂𝗵𝘂𝗵𝘂, who was on loan from Livingston.
Yeah.
He was at Arbroath, and after every home game, he would come along and he would speak to every kid who waited at the end to speak to him, and he would sign things and get pictures taken with
Wow.
the kids and some adults as well. And Joel, that kind of thing really builds trust and a bond with the players of the town. And then they would come to train on a Monday and try and do the skills that Joel would do on the Saturday. So it's all wrapped up in one. Going back to football matches, being able to see their heroes and then go and mimic their heroes again, all wrapped up in one, and it's going fantastic. I think football in the town is really buzzing at the moment because of all these factors.
And has that definitely impacted, your status as well in terms of popularity, people wanting to come to you for coaching and things like that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of calls over the last year from people outside of the town asking some questions about some things that have gone on in the town. The club set up a fan zone, for example, where kids could go along 45 minutes before the kickoff, make some noise and do some fun activities and things like that. A couple of the clubs in Scotland called me and asked me how we did that and how they could do it as well. So it's nice to get people looking into Arbroath to try and see what we're doing, because in years gone by, we would always look outside. So what are other clubs doing? What are other towns doing? We try and copy them, which is probably not the best way to go a lot of the time. But the town, again, it's forged its own path with initiatives and things like that. So the popularity of the team and the popularity of everything around the club has grown in the last year, certainly, and it's been fantastic to be a part of that. Very small part of it, but it's fantastic to be a part of it nonetheless. So yeah, I said it a few times already, but football in Arbroath is, at the professional level, it's buzzing. At the amateur level, it's buzzing. At the junior level, it's buzzing. And the grassroots level, it's buzzing. You couldn't wish for a better platform at the moment than we have.
And would you say, like, in terms of before, of course, before COVID had hit, I remember in our last conversation we were talking about how sometimes we would have kids that were kind of falling out of love with football and weren't enjoying it as much. So like beforehand, would you say Arbroath before wasn't the same in terms of how buzzing it is about football at the moment?
Yeah, a few people have said to me that in years gone by, 5-10 years ago, it was in danger of losing its status. I think it's probably a fair term to use. Participation levels weren't as high as they are now, for example. Over lockdown, that was in danger. So I was at 𝗔𝗿𝗪 TFT, which was my own private company beforehand, and we managed to get great numbers come along to those sessions every week. And lockdown kind of threw a spanner in the works. So I tried with others as much as possible over lockdown to keep kids engaged, and I did some sessions for yourselves, and they were out on Facebook and YouTube and things like that, so kids could keep practicing at home. I did stupid stuff like competitions and that, just as much as possible to keep kids engaged. Parents said to me that those things worked. It's not going to work in all cases. I'm going to be 100% honest. There were kids who gave up and maybe went and tried another sport, which is great, or just gave up and did something else. But for the majority of cases, I think people in the town did their best to keep kids engaged over that period. So we did a good job. And when we came out of lockdown, as I said earlier on, the participation numbers just went through the roof. So I think that everyone in the town deserves a big pat on the back for trying their best during that difficult period.
Yeah. And now just touching on kind of you as a coach and, the kind of position that you have, why was coaching always like a preferred position of yours in terms of football? Because I remember in the last interview, you said you stopped playing football and stuff like that, but coaching really kind of brought you back into it and you loved it.
Yeah, I think that's what I said last time. It's correct. I think, I wasn't a great player. I kind of fell out of love with football for various reasons, mainly because the pressure to win. I just wanted to go and express myself. And when my son became involved in football, I think it was the same thing. It was the pressure to win. At 8, 9, 10 years old, it kind of seemed a little bit silly to me. There was the pressure to make it to a professional academy as well, where some kids just want to play with their friends and have fun. So I got involved because I just thought I could make a little bit of a difference. And as always, you're kind of naive in that respect. So I took a couple of teams, grassroots teams and things like that, and then I quickly realised that training twice a week with a grassroots team is probably not going to provide football at the level that everyone wants football at. So some people just want to come to those 2 sessions and play. Some people want to do more. Some kids want to do more, rather in particular. So I started 𝗔𝗿𝗪 TFT, which was technical training, which was just centered around receiving the ball, moving with the ball and releasing the ball. Because I didn't have everybody from a team in those sessions, we just concentrated on technical aspects of those areas. So I really started to fall in love with football during that time, or coaching rather, during that time, because it was great. It's great to help players become better if they want to.
Yeah.
And I think I said last time, I'm not sure if I did, but the buzz of seeing a kid being able to master something they couldn't do before is unbeatable for me. When I went to the community trust, it was a little bit different. So the spread of kids who'd played before and who hadn't played before was greater. So that my remit changed. It was to sort of ignite a passion for football in the ones who hadn't played before, and then it was to keep that fire alive for the ones who had played before. So the remit had changed. And at the end of the day, I sort of believe you need to love football. You need to fall in love with football before someone can teach you about football. So the different aspects have made me a much more experienced coach today. Anyway, working with players at different ages and abilities and levels and things like that. But certainly, the coaching aspect is not lessened depending on the type of player I'm working with or the level the player's at or anything like that. So it's been an interesting journey, even in the last 2 years. I'm going to be 100% honest. I've coached hundreds, even thousands of football players of different ages. I think the oldest one's maybe 70 and the youngest one's maybe 1. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been an interesting journey, but a valuable learning experience, and a learning experience that's really unique and you wouldn't get anywhere else. Certainly not working with one team at one level. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and my passion for coaching hasn't lessened any in that period.
Brilliant. And in terms of out of all the kids that you've coached and things like that, have you had any success stories from players that you've coached that have maybe went a level higher, or you've seen them really develop incredibly from obviously your teaching?
Yeah, there's been lots of players who've gone to academies, but I can't claim any credit for that. That's them. Again, we just gave them a platform and tried to ignite a passion in them for football, and the rest is up to them. I actually met a parent on Sunday who thanked me for everything I did for his kid, and again, I just said those words to him. It's all the players do the hard work, right? Coaching's easy. You just stand there and give some tips sometimes and lay out some cones and that. The players do the hard work. So their success story, they own that. It's not up to me to own. Personally, I love it when, I said this earlier on, when you get a player who cannot do something or is maybe doing something automatically that you think could be improved, and you help them improve that. So receiving the ball properly, for example, or maybe taking a bigger touch when they beat a player. Those little tips that they then make automatic themselves when they go into games, they're the success stories for me. And it's giving everyone that chance to participate and enjoy football as well. That's a secondary success story for me, because sometimes that you cannot play for a team and you cannot play football because there's barriers to that. Over the last year, myself and the community trust have removed a lot of those barriers, and that's been a huge success for the whole town as well. I don't like taking credit. You might guess that from my answer, but again,
it's fantastic anyway. Clearly the work that you're doing is working with the players that you have, because if they are going that step above, you have to give credit to yourself, because it's fantastic to hear. And a lot of players do need that slight guidance in order to advance. From playing football myself, I understand that completely. And just getting kind of personal and stuff like that in terms of football, what team do you follow and why?
So follow Arbroath, go to most of their games, home and away. I've missed a few this season, but less than 5 I think I've missed this season in total. It's been a fantastic season. It's been a dream season. Tried to go to as many games as possible, because I do not think we'll get another season like this. Top of the championship, 12 games to go. A couple of points clear with a game in hand. Hopefully the team can get over the line. But speaking to all the fans in the town, while we'd love that, we're just pinching ourselves at the moment, because part-time team with not just great football players but great people at the club as well, and not just great coaches but great people.
And stuff too.
Not just great admin staff but great people who know your name, take the time to get to know you, and there's a real community feel around the club at the moment. So it's great, and I love going to games, and I love speaking to everybody about the team. As I say, it's all positive. And long may it continue, because the club's just season on season growing, and hopefully it can grow and grow and grow to be as big as it can be. But there's good people in charge at the football club as well, very smart, switched on people who have the best interests of the football club at heart. There's been other stories in Scottish football recently that have not been as great. So it's fantastic to support a club and go to watch matches for a club who always have the supporters' best interests at heart. So yeah, long may it continue. Hopefully we can win the championship and get into the SPL. But if not, we cannot complain. Cannot complain. We're bottom at this time. No, not quite this time last year, but the turn of the year last year, I think we were bottom of the league. So the turnaround's been remarkable, and it's all credit to the club from the top to the bottom. Great people and hardworking people at that to try and turn the fortunes of the club around to get to where we are now. Great to be a part of.
Incredible. And again, going back to you and coaching and things like that, did you have anyone that like you specifically like looked up to at all, or anyone's strategies or kind of tips that you took off other people that you kind of mirrored into your own coaching that have worked quite well? I remember you said you had a friend who lived in Japan or something that was a massive, like you're a massive supporter of. So is there any more?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So I'm a more experienced coach now. I think I'm a bit older than some coaches just starting out. And, I think you've got a grassroots coach, and then you've got probably a professional coach, and then you've got coaches who work at the professional level. And I think I'm in that middle layer. But as I've gone from the grassroots coach level to this middle layer, my heroes and my inspirations have changed. So there's quite a few. I've got friends all over the world now, Japan,
Brilliant.
Australia. It's pretty crazy, and you can turn to any of those guys for advice. So Tom Byers, the person from Japan, he wrote a book called Football Starts at Home. He's a massive personality in Asian football. His book's all about the role that parents play in getting kids to fall in love with football at a young age. I think it's really inspirational. The book's really inspirational. The work he does is really inspirational. So he's working for 𝗜𝗡𝗪𝗓. They're in schools, implementing his program in schools there, wow. And it's in the academy at 𝗜𝗡𝗪𝗓. So it's fantastic. And Tom's a great guy as well. I don't know if you've interviewed David Baird or you've talked to David.
No, I haven't.
No, David again, just a great guy who has a scoreboard soccer concept, which basically is a games-based approach that defines that the learning should take place through the environment, not necessarily coaching points or generic coaching points. Huge inspiration of mine in the last year, David, about his approach to football and his approach to coaching. He's came up to Arbroath, I think, twice to work with the players here, and the players have thoroughly enjoyed it. Each time he's given a coach education session for us as well up here, which has been fantastic. Todd Bean, he's an American who lives in Spain. Johan Cruyff was his father-in-law.
Wow.
He's got a positional play approach. I really enjoy Todd's work and the Spanish influence there. Go back to the grassroots level, Pete Sturge, he's with the English FA. Very, very smart coach who's got inventive ideas about coaching and things like that. I really enjoy watching Pete's videos and seeing his stuff on Twitter. Lastly, this is the last one, 𝗔𝗿𝗵𝘂𝗵𝗂𝗵𝗱. I don't know if you've heard of Doug.
No, I haven't.
I got turned on to Doug from an American coach called 𝗜𝗡𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗓, who's in Albany, New York. James is a good guy as well. James happens to know Doug, but Doug wrote a book called The Coach's Guide to Teaching. And when I read it, it really changed my approach to coaching. So it basically goes into a fantastic level of detail about teaching and how to teach in relation to football, in relation to the classroom, and it merges the ideas and, combined with how kids learn and the stickiness of memory and things like that, has really, really changed my coaching approach in the last 6 to 8 months, probably. So, I'm a football geek.
Yeah, I mean, you could have tons, but I mean, it's fantastic to hear you have so many people that have helped you along the way and things like that. I just wanted to ask lastly, in terms of coaching, if you could give any coach that would like to start any advice whatsoever on how to start and how to progress, what would it be?
Just to start, get involved, volunteer, to continue. You never stop learning. You never know everything. There's always something new to learn. There's a different approach. Again, just go back to my earlier point. Hopefully, it was clear. You've got grassroots coaches, and maybe you've got more professional coaches who get paid, and then you've got coaches at the professional level who maybe have played at a professional level. And no matter where you are, you can always learn, and I think you can always pick up valuable tips. Every time I walk past a football field, I stop and I listen and I look and I pick up something. There's always something that someone does.
Always aware.
Yeah, there's always something that someone does that I think, wow, that's amazing. I'm gonna keep that in the memory for my next coaching session and blend it into my my approach and put it in my toolbox. And I think that's a fantastic quality to have. Sorry, I'm not picking myself up or anything, but I do think always learning is a fantastic quality to have, because if you can keep adding to your toolbox and you can pick the right tool when you need it when coaching players, then you'll do a good job in coaching. But certainly to start, just get started. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have rough days and bad days, coaching players, especially kids. But once you get started, that experience starts, and then those days get less and less, and you become more comfortable in that environment. So certainly, it's a great sport. Football, I've made so many friends throughout the world, and that's just on the coaching side. Remember, I didn't really play. And I think it's a fantastic sport and opens up so many avenues, and you can have conversations like this, which are great.
I know, for hours on end. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just start. That would be my advice.
Fantastic. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for your time tonight. That was a really good conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And
nice
you're a credit to Arbroath, as I said before. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.